Hello, hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Everybody should be hearing me and seeing the screen right now. I just want to do a little check on there that you guys can definitely hear me. And I'm all broadcasting loud and clear. If you could just give me a little acknowledgement in the window, and you should be able to see my screen as well at this time. So hopefully that's all coming through. Yep, sounds good. All right, awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Perfect. Good. How is everybody today? Welcome to our YouTube session. I hope you're all doing well and happy. I hope you're having a great day. And I hope that, wow, what a crazy Friday in the market, huh? This session is being recorded on the YouTube channel. We've got until 1:45 Eastern time. It's just gone 1 p.m. here on the East Coast. I'm broadcasting to you live from Philadelphia Center City, Market Street. In my office. This is Sam Evans of Pinnacle Institute with you. Thank you for joining us, guys. Furman, hello there. Yeah, Snow, you want me to look at? All right, cool. Uraj, John, Adrian, and anybody else who's looking on here, please type into the chat if you've got questions for me as our session goes on. These YouTube sessions, I feel, are an awesome way for us to give you a little bit of an idea of where we're coming from in Pinnacle Institute. Hey, Ois, let me know where you're joining us from, guys. So type in, love to hear where you're coming from. Okay, where you listening to us from. I do love to hear how global we are on any given day. Type in where you're joining us from. Um, Today's top subject is a better way to trade the trend. And interesting. Just before we get into that, though, if anything that I go through on this session with you today does strike you of interest, and you're like, "Hey, man, I want to know more about that. I love those concepts that you were talking into." We do have a workshop tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time that you could join us in, following next Wednesday and February 22nd at 11 a.m. And then on March the 1st, again, we'll be back at 11 a.m. as well. So got plenty of those on here as well. We just typed into the chat, made it very easy for you to join us. You'll see in the chat box right now, we've just typed in an easy link for you to click on. We'd love to see you at one of our complimentary advanced trading workshops as well. Dubai, India, South Africa, Kenya. Awesome. Adrian, I know you're in Canada, I believe, as well, right? So good. There you go. I'll go through those dates with you right at the end as well. Don't also forget to subscribe. Love to have you subscribe to us so you can keep on up to date with everything that we do here as well. All right, awesome. A better way to trade the trend. Wow, what a subject. Um, you know, it's somewhat of a conundrum, this subject for me. I was sitting thinking, how can I keep it interesting and fresh for anybody, looking at these sessions. And how can I kind of like, I don't know, take it from a different angle and maybe challenge the way you've been looking at things in the financial markets to try and open up, some different ideas. Because one of the things that frustrates me, guys, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to minimize that now and get over to the charts. I think one of the things that really frustrates me is just all the conventional stuff out there that I think, makes it look really easy and really simple. And then people start trading and then they're like, wow, this ain't easy and it ain't simple. Right. And I think, I look at being a trader in the market as now my life's work. I've been doing this for around 20 years now, and I feel very strongly about it and I love it. And I'm not one of those people who's going to just come and say, hey, that's rubbish, that's trash, that's garbage you're talking, that's awful. No, I'm going to be more like, hey, that's one way of looking at it, but to really change the results that you're maybe getting, you have to look at it from a different perspective. And that's exactly what today's session is all about. Okay, is looking at things from a different perspective. And I think that, one of the things that I want to look over, actually, I've got the dollar up here as well, but, I can bring up a multitude of markets. Maybe I'm going to, just to make it different, I might bring up the euro futures, actually. We always look at the dollar. Let's bring up the 6E and see kind of, how that's looking right now. I got a monthly chart here and I got a weekly chart here. And, you asked me to look at snow. I believe somebody asked me to look at snow. Is that right? Furman, are you still in here, buddy? I can definitely do that. If we get some time, I'm sure I'll pull that out. But, it's incredible how, when we look at so many charts, we see these massive, changes in the direction, and everybody's all about trade the trend. And you probably heard the concept many, many times, the trend is your friend. I'll be honest with you guys, in my whole career of trading, I've not really found that to be the case. Um, and you're like, "Well, what do you mean? You've not found that to be the case." Well, what I'm saying is yes, trends can be powerful things. The concept behind a trend is that, when you're trading it, it gives you a chance to stay with things for a very, very long time. And I want to just pull up some more data on here, by the way. I need to go back, like the max available on here. That's going to be great. I'm going to go this on the maximum available as well. I'm adding a little bit of data on here for you guys so we can go back a little bit further on these markets, on the daily charts. In fact, let's go do this. I want to get the full whack max available. That's awesome. And then let's do the monthly chart, the same thing as well. Adding a bit of data because we're going to go back a little bit on here, my friends. You see why I'm doing this. There you go, bosh. Let me reset these charts for you now and show you what they look like. So the idea of the trend is that, the benefit is when you go with momentum, if there's a trend, you may as well just go with it. It's like a flowing river. Like, look at this massive downtrend we had here on the euro throughout most of 2021 and 2022, right? A long trend. And you ask yourself a question, you know, people always say, there's the impulse move, there's the correction, there's the impulse, there's the correction, right? So the impulses are the longer moves down, the corrections are the shorter moves in the opposite direction. That is real basic 101 trading. I mean, that's it. Trade the things, buy the pullbacks, sell the rallies. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that, right? But that's all well and good. But here's the thing, we had a real shift here. We had a real shift in the market right here. I'm talking about this point from here to here. Monstrous shift in the market. And if you were a trend trader, there were some zones here that, you might have been looking, or areas for continuation, right? They ended up getting crushed. And if you've been shorting this market on this particular move here, then, you've been getting crushed on it. And that's my big problem with it, because if I look at this chart right now, let's just look at this as a weekly chart. Let's go to a daily chart. When I look at this daily chart of the euro, I'm looking at the euro futures, by the way. For this section of time here, right? Arguably, we've been in an upward trend, right? An upward trend. And great, buy the pullbacks, happy days. But right now we're seeing a little bit of a shift in the direction where we've gone 1.1 to almost 1.6. At the moment now, we're about 400 ticks, 400 pips to the downside on this move. And then before this, we were in a downward trend here. So you can ask yourself, well, look, what am I in right now? Because if I zoom in on this part, I'd say, well, we're in a short-term downtrend, but we're overall ranging since here. If I had a bit more data, I'd say, well, this is just a pullback in an uptrend, because I'm looking at just this section, right? And then I'm like, well, but then if I had a little bit more data on now, I'm like, well, wait a minute. We've been in a really long-term downtrend here, and maybe this is just a pullback, because if I look at it on the weekly charts, man, this thing has been suffering, right, for quite some time on this move here. Maybe this is just a pullback for bigger things to come. You understand? My charts have been really glitchy today, guys. I apologize. I don't know what's wrong with them. They're just, I don't know if it's my mouse or something. I just can't get them working. There we go. All right. So my point is, it can be very confusing. Has anyone ever felt sometimes like you're just rolling the dice, when it comes to trend? And what do I mean by this? When I say like rolling the dice when it comes to trend, you get these days where, all right, high, high, higher, low, higher, high, higher, low, high, high, right. So I'm like, all right, the next pullback, I'm going to buy it. And you get that. And then it's like, oh, now it's in a downtrend again, right? And then you're like, all right, it's looking weaker, so I'm going to short the rally. And as you go to do that, it then does that again, right? It can be a very, very frustrating experience. I know I've been there as well. Well, the problem you've got is you've got to know not just about when the market goes up and when the market goes down. You got to know where these trend shifts are likely to be. And I call these areas here, I call them trend shifts. Let's just put TS, trend shifts. Okay. You got to know where these trend shifts are going to be or likely to be, because everything is a trend within a trend within a trend. And it gets so very, very confusing. Why? Well, because you're always chasing yourself on everything you do, right? What's the trap trend? What's the downtrend? And so, how do I know where these are going to be? Because in an ideal world, if I'm looking at following a trend like this, right, I want to know this. Let's X all this out. If I'm looking at an upward market like this and I want to think it's going to keep going higher, well, I got to ask myself a question. If I'm at this point here and this much of the trend has already happened, how sustainable is it that it's going to be able to just keep going up? Because the higher it goes, the more chance it has of going down, right? So what we've got to focus on is how long has it got left and where is it going to turn? They're the two interesting things. Because I think the easiest place to be in a trend is at the start. Who would agree with me on that? Or not easiest, the best place to be in a trend is at the start, right? That's the best place to be in. And typically, whenever you're a trend trader, you run the risk of always being late to the game, late to the party. You know, there's no point in being fashionably late, okay, in the market. If you're fashionably late in the market, you'll be the one left basic with very, very little. So, my point is this: we have to give an idea of where these things are going to turn, right? So, the simple rule is follow a trend until you have reason to follow it. Well, it all comes back down to the most important factors. And I'm going to go onto my weekly chart of what really starts a trend. And the subject of today was a better way to trade the trend. So I'm going to answer that question right now. I'm going to get into some of these charts. The better way to trade a trend is to try and be in the trend at the very start. That's the rule number one. The better way to trade a trend is to attempt to be in the trade at the very start. Okay. So then people turn around to me and go, well, how do I know what the start is? Well, what makes prices turn? Imbalances between supply and demand are what make prices turn. For example, here we had a demand area. Okay. What did this demand area here do at this particular point? It caused the price to turn. If we look at where this price turned here, go back to the left and see what was here. What did we have here? What we had was a supply area that the last time prices were here, it turned at. And what you need to know, it's no different to here where the price turned. Okay. Here we never even got back up to those previous highs. It never made it back. But basically, if you take a look, we initiated an uptrend from this point. We initiated an uptrend from this point. We initiated a downtrend from this point. The very best place or the better way to trade a trend, ladies and gentlemen, is to be in it at the start. And to be in it at the start, ask yourself a question: where do trends begin? Well, here's our demand area. And this is where the trend shifted here. Now look at our monthly chart, right? Here was a supply zone. That caused the trend to change here, right? And if we track back in here and say, well, was there anything back to the left-hand side? I don't know if I've got enough data on here because the euros weren't done. But if I go onto the Euro USD, in fact, you'll be able to see it. I have to go onto the spot market. I'm on the future. I'm a futures trader mainly. But if I go onto the Euro USD, there you go. Here's where the lows happen here. Look at the fresh zone to the left-hand side here. Now, look at that elevated push away that we had. And ask yourself, and I'm going to highlight it for you, this area here that I've marked off, ask yourself some questions about this area. What did the market do? It consolidated just around the parity level of 1. And then after consolidating from this area, it took off like a rocket. took off like a rocket. Now, this is where people get this terribly wrong. I'm not assuming there are a lot of unfilled orders here. Lots of buyers, very few sellers. The sellers sold. There were no more sellers, just willing demand and no supply. The price pushed higher. So you look at something like that and you're like, wow, that market really flew from that particular point, right? The market really flew from that particular point. Is it really any surprise then that when the market came back to this area here, we've initiated a new upward trend? Now, here's the question right now. Is this a short-term correctional uptrend, or are we getting ready to go back down again? Well, the charts are going to give us a clue about that, friends, because here's the thing. The trend is like, I call it more like momentum. At Pinnacle Institute, I talk about trend more in the concept of momentum. A river will flow. A river will flow, right? As it needs to flow. The river will flow, and it will turn around and stuff. But if you've got like a dam wall just sitting there, that river may flow, but then when it hits that wall, it's just going to get pushed back. It can't go any further. And that's a little bit what like a trend is like. The trend is the flow, right, of the river, and it's hitting dam walls, right? It's hitting dam walls. That's exactly what it's doing here. And what are those dam walls, ladies and gents? Those dam walls are supply and demand zones. Now, if you keep hitting a wall hard enough and you keep testing it, eventually it's going to break, as you can see here. This whole region here, nothing lasts forever, right? See here, we hit it, rallied back, came back down again. Notice we spent a couple of weeks, a couple of months in this zone, chopping around, and then crash through the dam to hit the next wall when the market had run out of momentum, and then we get to push higher. Okay, and then we get to push higher. So the idea here that very few people get is you've got to understand this. If you're going to follow a trend, but you better be aware of where the dam is. You better be aware of where the market could turn again. You better be aware of, oh, this can only go to this particular point. And it's almost like you have to anticipate it. It's like, I don't care how fast you drive a car. If you drive that car in a straight line and there's nothing in front of it, it'll keep going. But if you hit a solid brick wall, it's probably going to come to a stop. And that's how you need to start looking at price. Price will get into a trend. The trend is a form of behavior. But after enough time, what's going to eventually happen? After enough time, eventually, the market is going to hit a wall. And that is going to force opposite direction upon that market. Does that make sense, everybody? So after this area here is no longer valid. So let's go ahead and remove it. And we took out an area here. Now, this is where it can be really challenging for people, is here, we took this area out. I actually think we might have had some reaction to it. Let me have a look on the weekly charts. Because I want to make this very clear, by the way. If any of you are looking for the perfect system, don't waste your time. There's no such thing as a perfect system. In fact, look, there was a really good area here. Because look, on this weekly chart, there was supply here. And that supply got absorbed quite nicely there. You see off that candle? Then it broke down and then it pushed higher. And we've ground our way a little bit higher on here. And now look what's happened here. We go back and we look at the monthly chart. We just come up to another area now. And we've gone from one area to another. See the base and then the drop that's happened from this particular point. Now, take a look at this. What do we have underneath this candle? What do we have underneath this candle? What we have underneath this candle is a ton of wide open white space. We call this white space or novice space. And what that suggests to me is that this market has room to go lower because there's no demand until we get back down to this 98838 area. There's no room until it gets to that particular area. And what we need to now do is say, all right, if this supply area up here holds, and this is the nearest opposing demand area, and remember, I'm looking at a monthly chart, that gives me a really good clue, a really good idea of what my thinking should be next. Can anybody tell me what I should be thinking now about the direction? Because we may be in an uptrend. We've been in an upward trend for 4 candles. 1, 2, 3, 4. But this is our 5th weekly candle that's down. So is this a pullback to buy the uptrend, or maybe is it a clue to do something else? I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds to type something in there and let me know what you think. Now, there's a slight delay on here, I feel, because that's the good old internet. So I'm going to be sitting here and going to kind of be waiting for waiting for you guys to type that in for me and let me know what you think about that. Maybe you guys will be able to, or maybe we won't. I don't know. Let's just check on my chat here. Just go on here and see. All right. So what I'm going to say on here is, to me, this wide open space here is an opportunity for this market to go lower. Now, do I really care about this? Right. Thanks, John. Thank you, John. Yeah. Now, and the demand is what? Much lower. Much lower. Much lower. And you know what? It could be that this is a pullback for the next leg down. Could be. The dollar does suggest that. Quickly slide over to the dollar. We've been looking at this level together. Who of you guys have been following me over the last few months? You'll know I've been eyeballing this big monthly area on the dollar. Here it is. See this area here? I've been eyeballing this big monthly area on the dollar, which it overshot and doesn't mean anything. Never closed below that area. We got wide open space above still. Yeah, we got wide open space above still. That also suggests we've got opportunity to break down lower. So if we now go back to our Euro USD, good job, guys. Good job. We go back to our Euro dollar chart. I don't care about the trend, because at this particular point up here, this was not an opportunity to buy this 5-week uptrend. And look how challenging that would have been. If you're looking on the weekly chart, on that weekly chart, it looked quite strong. Look at all those weeks of upward. But now we've got to a bigger area, and you can actually see we actually hit a weekly supply zone right at those highs, just around a big round number of 1.1. And now we've got weakness. Now, I don't see any demand really on here until first level of demand at 1.0322 to 1.0222, right? I don't really see anything on there until. So I'm anticipating that we're going to get now the next leg of this move to the downside. Now, do I really need to worry about uptrends and downtrends, therefore, with what I'm talking about? Do I need to worry about that? No. All I need to worry about is, where is a trend likely to start? Let's write that down. Let's go ahead and write that down together. I'm going to write this on the thing for you, okay? Where is a trend likely to start? Where is a trend likely to end? Now, they are two very important questions. I've put them up on there for you, okay? Where is a trend likely to start? Where is a trend likely to end? That's what you should be thinking about. That's the best way of trading trend. Because at Pinnacle, we don't really focus on trend. We don't really care about trend too much. Okay? Okay? And everybody who like focuses on trend trading, I always ask them the question, I'm like, well, what trend are you looking at? Well, the one on my chart. I'm like, yeah, but there's loads of different ones, right? Because right now, so we've had 2 weeks of downward pressure on the market. And you could look at this, and look, if you look at this chart here, and you look at this on a 15-minute chart, right? We've been in a downward trend, right? Falling down. Now I've had a bit of a pullback. All we did today, though, was what? Came back into another supply zone, right? It all depends upon the perspective in which you're looking at the market. And people don't get that. People do not get that. They don't focus on perspective. What they focus on is what one chart. You need to keep your eye on the bigger picture. You need to keep your eye on the overall market. And so I don't really care about this move anymore. I don't, right? I care about back on my monthly chart of where we've come from, monthly supply. And I care about we've got a load more space to go to the lows. So right now, looking at this chart, you might say to yourself, well, what's our next plan of action on here? Well, let's take a look. I don't need to trade off of this larger chart, but I could be looking at some higher types, some zones. And so what depends on my style of trading. I do not see any real, and look, this is absorbing some of this daily demand right now. I don't really see any supply zones on here. We're consolidating for a while right now. We had a nice supply area, a few supply areas here, but if we could get a decent little pullback on this market to a nice fresh area, I'd be more than happy to take a short on this market. At the moment, there isn't a fresh zone that we could really look at. It's going to give us a really good entry, and that's okay. We can wait. We can wait. This is where I'm just now looking for supply zones which I could lean on. So, all right, I need a good supply zone that I could lean on. You understand? You can trade on a 4 or 1 hour, yeah, as long as you've got a good quality zone there for you. Now, I highly wouldn't recommend it Friday 1:30 Eastern, so I really wouldn't recommend getting into any new trades now because you're going into the weekend. So this is something to start watching on Sunday if you're a Forex trader, okay? But what I'm going to be looking at right now is seeing where I can find a really strong imbalance that might be of use to me. Now, at the moment, there isn't any, and that's fine. Like, I have to say, I quite like this little area here. Oh, I need to put the right tool on. I like this area where we're at right now, but my problem is I don't want to enter the trade now because the markets are all going to be closed in a couple of hours. Does everyone understand that? So that means I could relook at this area tomorrow, on Sunday, excuse me, or I could come back to it. Now, a lot of these areas have been tested. So I need to find a small time frame fresh area that might be something good for me to take. And at the moment, looking at it, this is probably your best bet. Higher. That is it there. You see that area there? 10723 to 10732. I like that. Now that's got some of the characteristics we'd look for in Pinnacle. It's got that strong drop away. It's got a very little time in the base. It's got a clean backyard. No immediate trading to worry about to the left. A little bit of secondary evidence. If these are all like things, well, what are you talking about there? You should come on one of our workshops. We'll explain a lot more about that. But that to me is a nice little area right there. And this one here is a little bit low where we're at right now. Again, if this market was not about to close, if this market wasn't about to close, and we might open into it, so I'll leave it there for you. But those are my two. I prefer the higher area. I think we've got a slightly stronger move away. The basing is a little bit less, and we have the secondary evidence that suggests to me that this market could go a little bit lower. But at the moment, that's all I'm really thinking about is trying to get involved in one of those shorts because, again, when I go back to these larger charts and I look at where this market's at and where it's come from, to me, there's nothing but downside available on here. Nothing but downside available on here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade this euro until I get to another area of major demand. And the next best demand area that I can see for a really good chance of rallying will be down here at 103.22. So it's almost like the zones. How can I describe it? I feel like the zones are your trending indicators. Don't focus on what the trend currently is, focus on what the trend may be next. It's a different methodology. It's a slightly different approach, but it's the approach and you're welcome, sir. It's the approach and the methodology that we teach, that we embrace, and that we rely upon at Pinnacle. It's always served us very well. In my own trading, it's definitely served me very well. In what I do anyway. Let's John, let me go look at snow for you and see. Let's go look at another market and we can do the same analysis. We've got time for maybe another couple of examples. And let's remember those two questions that we just asked about. Where does the trend likely to start? Where is the trend likely to end? Alrighty. My charts are really slow today. All right. Now already, I'm looking at this chart, John, and I can already see just by looking at the monthly chart. You know, believe it or not, I start with the monthly chart and everything I do, and I have no directional bias whatsoever on this chart right now. We've got highs, we've got lows. We're pretty much in the middle of those highs and those lows. So it's like, yeah, monthly chart's not really telling me very much. There you go, avoid isolations on. Now above here on the weeklies, we've got an opportunity here. So I look at this as well, and I'm seeing the same thing. I'm like, there really isn't anything here. I mean, we are dead in the middle. And one of my very first trading colleagues I ever worked with said, don't diddle in the middle. Well, right now, you'd be diddling in the middle. Now, if you want to tell me what the trend is of this market is, good luck to you. If you can't clearly define what a trend is, you know, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There you go, John. Right now, you're not really at supply, you're not really at demand on this chart. So already I'm kind of like, well, I'm open to both directions. Just buy low, sell high. And you'll notice that you typically will find yourself buying low, selling high if you follow supply and demand and anticipate what that market could do. Again, we don't focus on being trend traders typically because we're consummate trend traders in the regard that we like to try and be in at the start of the trend. You know, but yeah, John, I would agree with that statement there. Then it's just about being sure that you know how to define and where those areas are, and then allowing yourself to actually pull the trigger, right? So if we go to a weekly chart right now, from a weekly to a daily, yeah, I'm looking at this right now, and I'm like, yeah, this tells me everything I really need to know. And now this has come from some supply up here originally. Now I like it higher on here, but it's in that downward momentum. So the question to ask ourselves is, well, where's the next area? And for me, the next area will be here. Like, I'm not interested in anything else here. I'm not interested in anything else here because there is no good quality demand until we get to this gap down at 126.07 to 119.38. Now, we've started to move. Now is not the time to sell, but I'd be happy to sell a particular rally on it. Well, this kind of risk here is too big. So let's keep drilling it down. Let's drill it down. And now we're into something a little bit more interesting where I kind of like it on the 2 hour, really. I think the immediate area would be this gap. Now, I call this a pro gap. This is a pro gap. There's two pro gaps here. We've been in an upward move, gap down once, gap down again. Two pro gap areas. I gotta say here, if I'd been aggressive, I wouldn't have any problem with shorting a rally back up to 163.92 to 165.36. Because I'm anticipating that we've got room to do this and go lower. Notice how on this chart here, there is no demand until much lower. There's not really a lot of good quality demand on this chart. I keep doing that today. I don't know why. There's really not a lot on here. Maybe a halfway point. I'm just looking now. But nothing's really standing out to me as amazing. This is too much in the middle. I'm anticipating further down prices. Why? Because of our location on the monthly charts. So I'm happy to get a little bit more aggressive on this position and short up at the unfilled gap there. Okay? And that all comes from now. You might say, well, it's going to take ages to get there. All right, well, then don't trade it. Wait for something else. Look for something. Thing is this, I would rather wait and be patient. Always trust and be patient. Have a process to be patient and go through it that way. You know, I don't need a lot of moves. Or you're going to get in and make really small moves and play it that way. You know, you have to decide, you know, what suits your style. You know, like you know, I have different styles of trading, you know, for different things like swing trading, day trading. And when I come to I would class this as a swing trade right now, as I'm waiting for it to get to those highs. And I'll be happy to wait for those as long as need be. And especially considering on this monthly chart that we're kind of just in the middle right now. Okay. If you've got another one you want me to look at and we can apply the same kind of simple methodology to it, let me know. When you look at the S&P right now, I always look at the S&P, so I'm gonna look at the S&P. It's kind of boring, always looking at the S&P, right? What else? You guys have another stock you'd like to look at, guys? I've got a few minutes left before I wrap up. So put some requests in and we'll look at some markets together, guys. Okay? Love to take some of your requests than me just tell you what I want to look at. Okay? So give me a little idea of some of the other things that you might want to look at. I do agree with you, John, though, in your analysis on there, and especially with the size of these wicks that are down here. I'm looking at these wicks, and they're just like, yeah, PayPal, gotcha. Let's do it. I've got time for PayPal and Euro Yen. Cool. All right. All right. So these are my zones that I have in my sessions with the members of Pinnacle that you're seeing here. So same thing again. PayPal to me has just come off of a weekly area. Overall, I expect it to stay ranging. I can see that from the monthly chart. When a market is ranging, I will assume that that range is likely to continue. Okay. I always will assume the range is likely to continue until it proves otherwise. And at this moment, it has not proven otherwise. It's proving that, you know, it wants to go lower. And I can see off of this weekly chart right now, no reason to want to be a buyer until we get down to this area here. And that's a little bit too wide for me. So why don't we go and look at this on a daily chart and see what we've got. Here's some daily areas that we recently had on this daily chart. These are some previous daily areas that we had. So we've got a little bit of work cut out for us on PayPal right now. The weekly and monthly chart, definitely a key area where we're at right now. If we opened up in this area again on Monday, then I'd be interested in it. I would. But I gotta say, other than that, if that area doesn't hold, I'm gonna be waiting all the way down to here where this slight gap zone is, and that's at 68.12 to 67.92. And right now we're in equilibrium. So that'd be my nearest buy point. If this area here gets taken out at 73.38, I'd expect further prices to the downside. And that would allow me to go then to a smaller time frame. If we take that high, these lows out, and go to a smaller time frame, and then mark off a nice zone for a short. Now, I'd only take that area there if it takes out this area here first and then goes back. So I want to see the weakness in the market in that way. But I'm happy at the moment to look at that analysis and expect that we'll get lower prices on there. Get lower prices on there because of the overall big picture charts that I'm seeing over here. And then finally, let's look at this euro yen, and we'll call it a wrap. So again, look, the euro yen got stopped in its tracks. These zones that you see are the zones that I mark off with the members of Pinnacle, what we work on together. I haven't looked at this chart for a very long time, so I have to just correct some of these areas, guys. Not all of them are winners, you know. There you go. So I would expect some more downside on here, considering the selling pressure that's happened, and we're rallying back up again. I would expect there's a little tiny bit left in it. So we're running out of time on the trend trade to the upside right now. So we'll go to a smaller time frame and see what we're looking at. Do a full screen chart. Here we go, up here. Where's my daily chart gone? Oh, there it is. There you go. We're not far off this area here. It's a bit big for me, but I'm going to drill it down so it looks like on a smaller time frame. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Yep, I'll be waiting for it at 145.79 now. 145.79, which is where I'd expect this upward trend to start running into trouble. So a better way to trade the trend is try and be in the new one at the new supply zone on the higher time frames. And in the meantime, you know, if we're looking at this market and saying, hey, are there any other opportunities on here? Yeah, before it hits this zone, before it hits this area, I have no issue in taking a pullback at this demand zone at 142.60 to 142.34 for a pullback to continue higher as well. Always, because here's where I think this next leg of the uptrend will start. Here's where I think the uptrend will end. And that's where I expect the downtrend to begin. Just two simple questions to always ask ourselves when we're ever doing these trades. All right. I hope that was helpful. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I try to keep things simple and easy for everybody. I hope you got something out of that. It's always a pleasure to be here once a month with you. You can go on the archives here and subscribe to our YouTube channel for Pinnacle Institute, and you'll see this recording up a little bit later on, and all of our previous sessions from our variety of market specialists. Myself, Sam Seiden, Steve Moses, Brandon Tristan, and the gang. We're very happy to be here and help you. We highly encourage you to come and check out one of our advanced trading investing workshops. Remember, there's one tomorrow at 10 a.m., another one next Wednesday, and then the following week as well. Just click on the link in the chat box, take you right there. Register, it's free. You never know. You might, pick up a few extra things here and will help steer in the direction that you're looking for. So we're here to help. Garb, great man. Thanks, Luis. Always a pleasure. One of our members right there. Adrian, member there, shouting out to you guys. Thanks for representing. And if you looked at this recording, I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to reshare it. And no doubt, I will see you in the month of March. Have a great rest of your February. Have a great rest of your Friday. A great weekend. Be yourself. And go from there. Okay. Yeah, John, I'd highly select. Please check out the thing. We go through it all in the workshop, but it's very affordable. Very affordable. So there's a couple of $100 to get going. So, all right, check it out. We've got a whole team who you can call and who can actually help you out as well. All right, buddy. Look forward to working with you guys. Have a great rest of your week. All right, absolute pleasure. Thanks, team. Take care, everybody.